Good morning and welcome back. This morning, as we chat more about the crime situation in Tobago, I have the privilege of sitting with ex-ACP, Mr. Nurse. Good morning, sir, and how are you doing?
Good morning, and good morning to Tobago and all persons wherever they are who are tuned into your program.
Now, we have sat here, Mr. Nurse, on several occasions to chat about the crime situation in Tobago, but this time we are talking about the fact that the sleeping tiger has awoken, as you put it. You have suggested on several occasions that there are particular crime dens in Tobago that go unnoticed or unrecognized, that persons, tend to overlook. But now we are seeing the outward manifestation of that on the island. Talk to us a bit about that.
Well, let us look at that from two limbs. The criminal element doing what they do and the police response to all of it. Let us take the police response, and I promise to be brutally blunt, whether I'm liked or not. The police service in Trinidad has never evinced any intention and or desire to develop the lot of the police officer for service in Tobago. Let me repeat that, just in case you didn't hear me. The police administration in Trinidad have neglected Tobago just as the politicians in Trinidad have neglected Tobago. And in the police service, it was worse. In 2011, and I am going to read something for you, dated back to 2011, the 23rd of May. And I'm writing to the Deputy Commissioner Administration. Training for police officers, formerly Special Reserve Police. Since the year 2000, Tobago Division has had an intake of 2 Special Reserve Police officers into the regular service. It is trite that Special Reserve Police officers receive training in limited areas of policing and for much shorter period than the regular officers. I am aware that some training was given to the first intake of police officers. However, the second batch received no further training beyond that which they receive as Special Reserve Police officers. As a consequence of this, I am writing to you to alert the Police Training Academy of this shortcoming and respectfully ask that due consideration be given to this training in the most precipitous fashion. Should we not achieve this objective, it would definitely result in the lowering of the quality of policing delivered to members of the public in Tobago, since the Special Reserve who were absorbed into this division account for a significant percentage of the police strength in Tobago. It is my belief that these training can be done here in Tobago utilizing some of the resources available in this division. The situation outlined is urgent. Sorry, let me read it again. The situation outlined above is urgent and respectfully ask that it be given your usual urgent attention, please. This is dated the 23rd of May, 2011. There was no response. Whether this left Tobago or not, I don't know. But it is addressed to the Deputy Commissioner Administration.
And that was during your time.
I was the legal officer for Tobago at the time, and I detected the weakness, and nothing was done. Now,
I think what I want to ask before you even get into that question, when it comes to the actual training of officers, is there any curriculum that is set up that is specific to Tobago circumstances?
No. The police training curriculum is developed by the Police Academy. And anybody who's to do training on behalf of the Police Academy must be acquainted with this with the curriculum. And so what the academy does is that it gives you what they want you to teach, and that's quite fine. But this situation I've outlined here, epitomizes the lot of the Tobago police. Now, let us look at the criminal element in Tobago. There are a lot of things that happened between the year 2020 and now. The Tobago prison did not have any intake of prisoners here. The prisoners had to go to Trinidad. And you have cross-fertilization. You have, persons for maybe very minor offenses, incarcerated, not getting bail, going to Trinidad. And you know what happens there. There is now the Tobago crime situation is multifaceted. There was a study done in 2011 which said that Bethel was one of the hard areas. If you look at Bethel now, Bethel is changing. Now, I did a paper in 2009 called Preserving Our Virgin Territory, and that was Mariah, Charlottesville, and Roxborough. What I found from that is that if Tobago had then 10 notorious criminals, 7 was from the Golden Lane, Lake Two area. And nobody paid attention to it. So it is for the lack of action. It is for the lack of proper leadership in Tobago that we are having our problems. And when you have crisis like this, your leaders must lead from in front. The ACP must lead from in front. And I make no bones about that.
Right. And when we have a situation where the THA is limited in the type of criminal or crime-related policies that it has been created or have been able to create, how does one even step forward to lead from the front, from a governmental perspective, when we are limited by the Constitution? Well, now we see a thrust towards the implementation of a Tobago police service because the situation has become what we would call dire. But before now, how was any policy going to be created with all the limitations that have been presented?
The Tobago House of Assembly was brought into existence on the 4th of December 1980. There was no intention to give the Tobago House of Assembly anything relating to security. The security apparatus of the Tobago House of Assembly is the worst in any municipal corporation. Those of us who were around long enough knew that between that time, a group of police officers came from Garden Emergency Branch because they said Robinson was bringing in guns in Kings Bay. So not the NAR, not the People's Partnership, not the PNM, not the Pandey government of 1995 evinced any intention to properly equip the Tobago House of Assembly. All the municipal corporations in Trinidad have their municipal police. In the elections of 2015, Dr. Keith Rowley promised that he's going to increase the municipal police. And he did deliver. But you know something? That promise was never inclusive of Tobago because there was no way he could have done it. The legal mechanism was not in place. So Tobago never benefited. And so the Tobago House of Assembly was rendered impotent and nobody cared to change it.
Wow. Now, when it comes to actually dealing with the criminal elements on the island, you said that, you would have indicated early on that there were particular areas where a lot of hardened criminals were. How were police supposed to keep the territory virgin, as you had suggested in your paper?
Well, it required intelligence, right? When I say intelligence, I mean intelligence from a security perspective. So you had to know who these people are. And I don't think the police don't know who they are. I believe they know. But what has happened over time is that some of these police officers have either retired or they have moved to other areas. So Tobago is a very small island. I don't know if it is still 116 square miles, but it is not hard to police. The policing in Tobago requires, and as I've always said, 3 pillars: police presence, public education, and robust investigation. And I will not change from that. There are people in Tobago who are willing to talk to the police, but I don't know if the leadership is ready to talk to the people. And so police leadership is important. As I said before, we are facing crisis times. If we are to judge from the trajectory of the murder, we are heading to about 30. Right?
I want to ask you this question before we move further. How do we help the public to gain more confidence in the police to allow them to cooperate with the investigations? Because let's just say, without saying too much, there are crime situations that occur where persons have their own personal cameras in their driveway or at the front of their homes that happen to capture criminal activity. And there are a number of persons who say the reasons why I am not stepping forward to even give this footage is because there have been instances where when you give over the footage to the police, the footage ends up in the public domain. And based on the fact that criminals can see where the footage was taken from or the angle, it puts them, it puts them in the line of fire for criminals to come to them and ask them, why are you cooperating, or even make them become a target to criminal elements.
Well, if that is true, it is unfortunate. And if it is true again, then members of the public, the fear they have residing in them is well placed. Now,
you see it on news before news, you see it on TT Element, Entertainment, all these blogs online are posting the footage of crime happening.
All right, let me tell you something. I know when I was the homicide investigating officer in Tobago for a number of years, starting from the year 2000. And I know when I went on a murder scene, I didn't want some police there at all. I didn't want them there. So even people who were affiliated and supposed to be far more responsible, I didn't want them there. Now, confidence in the police will come, and the police have to go back to the basics, They have to go back to the basics. They have to find somebody whom they can trust. Right? And as I said on your program the other day, there is one police officer who I believe they can trust. And I'll say it here again. Mr. Rodil Kirk is somebody you can trust. He's the senior superintendent. He's newly installed. And I tell the Tobago public, if you have information, then you can call him. I would recommend nobody else. Right? The executive leader in Tobago, who is Mr. Hazel, has a responsibility, and he cannot sidestep it. He has a responsibility to engender public confidence in the police. How do you engender public confidence? There are too many people, there are too many reports made by people sitting in the station unattended. How are they going to have confidence in you? So if you begin to do the little things, straighten the lampposts, attend to the people's report, go out there, leave your office, go down to Scarborough Town and even do a little traffic. Talk to the people. There's a lot of goodwill in the Tobago space for the police, and the police must find it and harness it. They're not doing it. Or if they're doing it, they're not doing it in sufficient amounts.
I saw a comment on Facebook where someone said that the police indicated that they can't force anyone to give up a video footage, camera footage, but can the court not subpoena someone to present the footage?
One of the dangers with cameras is that sometimes they overwrite quickly, right? There are many medium the police can use to get it. Production orders. They can use warrants. And if you go, if you're going with your technician with the warrant, and you seize everything. But there is a special provision to deal with those things, and the police ought to know, right? So as a person saying that they don't have any responsibility. Of course you don't, but the law is there to ensure that it's done, and the police must know the law, and take it from there.
All right, well, we're going to take a break right here and we're going to continue this conversation right after this. See you soon. And welcome back to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates. I am Shenell Felix, and this morning I have been chatting with former ACP William Nurse, and we have been talking about the crime situation here in Tobago. And before we took the break, we were talking about that police having that public confidence in policing. But as we come back, we want to talk about the role that social media plays in diminishing that confidence in the police. Because you have a lot of blog sites being able to post sensitive investigative materials while investigations are still going on. How do we deal with this particular situation? Is there any laws or policies that would prohibit these online entities from making public sensitive investigation material?
Well, off the top of my head, I can't think of any law that can say prevent you from doing it. We have to balance between people's rights and public interest. Where a person has published information relative to an investigation, you can look at it from both angles. One, it might be inhibiting the police, and two, it might be new information that can be used. What the police must do is to be robust enough to find that person where that person is, who's publishing it, and interrogate your equipment. And there's a way to do it, right? And the police service is now littered with legal officers who will advise, and Tobago Division is not short in that regard. Mr. Forbes himself, an attorney at law, can advise the police in that regard. And I am saying that police need to be fearless, a little more forceful in what they do. If you do what you do and you do it right with the right guidance, trouble wouldn't come. So go after those persons who are publishing. If you can find them, and interrogate their apparatus. That's my view.
All right. And when it comes to the formation of the Tobago Police Service, have you had any consultation with the THA on this actual project? Do you know how it is going to be integrated with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service?
I think you have a little more information than I do, and you're skirting it around. I'm not going to talk about the proposed police unit for the Tobago House of Assembly. I would simply say that it is a move in the right direction, right? It will give the Tobago House of Assembly the leverage to deal with some of its own internal securities, and if they can infuse into that unit traffic wardens, it will go a very long way in assisting the police. Tobago has come of age, and that is as much as I would say on that unit. Tobago has come of age to be given the kind of respect from the central government in Trinidad because it has more than made its contribution, right? But the idea of the Tobago police, the THA police unit is an excellent idea. It's one that I will support, and if there is anything I can do to help, I will more than do it.
Good to know. And when it comes to the training of officers, I heard from Mr. Anselm Richards that they want to utilize the same police service training academy to train these officers. Do you think that's an effective way to go about doing things with the Tobago Police Service?
There is only one police commissioner. And those officers will fall under the Supplemental Police Service Act. The word supplement means add up, support, right? And that is just it. So even the supplemental police themselves are accountable and answerable to the police commissioner. I think somewhere in the Supplemental Police Act it says when a supplemental police officer is on duty, he is subject to the police standing orders and regulation. More importantly, if there is an emergency, any police officer from the rank of corporal can walk into a supplemental police unit and take persons for duty at station and anywhere else. Anybody from the rank of a corporal. And this is what we must know. So supplemental police are designed to add up and to support the regular police.
So that makes it important for them to be as trained or trained on the level of the regular police.
Of course, let us take the Port Authority. The Port Authority has its own police and they are trained by the police service. The municipal police in Trinidad are trained at the police academy. When it comes to advanced training and specialist training, that's a completely different thing.
So do you believe that continuous training is also necessary? Because similar to when we opened this morning, you spoke about the letter that you would have written at that time. So is continuous training important not only for the regular police officers or the special reserve police officers, but for these Tobago police officers that are going to come on stream?
Yes. Well, of course, training is really the backbone of a police organization. And when I am talking of training, I'm talking of, specialist training. And I don't know, I spent a few months in the police academy as superintendent. And one of the things that I was always ready to advocate for is the accreditation of the academy. I don't know if it is accredited to this date, but I only spent 3 months there. I think we have lost a real opportunity to deliver training and to attach the police academy to the University of Trinidad and Tobago as a campus. And I think we've lost that opportunity. It was my thinking that they would have done that. They would have tried to get that done. But I don't know if it was done. And to this date, I don't think it was. And I don't think it is accredited. So they can still try. And, let me say this. In 1996, I was a lowly constable. And there was an arrogant assistant commissioner crime. I wouldn't call his name. Very arrogant man. So they came to Tobago and they were chiding the police. All of them came in and they were coming down on the Tobago police. But I was there and I asked him one question. What about an advanced police training school? Well, if you hear that man behavior, we are waiting on Barbados and Jamaica. You know something? Jamaica has developed a unit called Red Track that delivers advanced training for police across the Caribbean. Barbados now provide training for Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. Where is Trinidad and Tobago? We are left behind with all the money we have had. And let me tell you, the government's 2020 vision would have failed because it did not include the police. There is no developed country who became developed and left its police service behind. And you cannot be a developed country when you're solving 10% of your murders.
Well, that's the other thing. When it comes to the crime detection rate and the ability to really solve these murders, we're not seeing a high rate of murders being solved in Tobago. This is also contributing to the lack of confidence in the police that the public has. So how do we increase public confidence when murders are not being solved?
I don't know. Well, I don't know how much murders were solved, how many murders were solved last year. I am not in the police service, and I don't know how many of the 15 or 14 this year have been solved. Right? I don't know how many, but I can tell you, in the year 2000, Tobago solved 100% of its murders, and that was repeated in 2001, 2002, 2003, 4 consecutive years. The last of the murder in 2000 was solved 16 years later, and that is the murder of Sonny Blueshirt, Sonny Chapman. Tobago has had another 100% solve rate in the year 2020. Tobago, no matter what they say, Tobago division remains the only division since the turn of the century who can boast of 5 years of 100% solve rate in murders. But those facts are not communicated to the public. So the public hear of a murder and they hear of nothing else after that. Yeah. And I am here to tell them that yes, Tobago is the only division with a very high solve rate for murder. But that needs to get out there. You need to tell people. There is one more thing. And that, that is where your public education is concerned. That will tell people, listen, your police are working for you. And one of the things that the police don't do, 1 hour after a major incident, a senior police officer must speak.
Briefing the media.
They must speak. You have, for the first time in my 40 years as a police officer, we have a quadruple murder in Tobago, and not a senior police officer has yet spoken. The ACP has not spoken. Why? Why? And Tobago people must demand better of their police. Demand it, it's your right.
You see it happen all the time, especially in the United States. As soon as a big issue happens, you hear the mayor as well as the head of the police department. They will come together and have a media conference and they will talk about it. Now, there was the suggestion that Tobago police should go back to knowing everyone on the island. Do you think that this can be an effective crime solving or relationship building strategy for police?
Yes. You can't police people that you don't know.
Yeah, and it was said that, a long time ago, most police officers, even when they walk the street, they would know almost everyone.
There was a police officer of recent vintage who was like that, Mr. Erlater. He knew everybody. And I don't know, and there are police officers here who have patterned that. There are some, and I can name 2. Sergeant Jonas and Sergeant Wilson. 2 very good police officers. But you see, I'm afraid to announce it because what Trinidad does, if they know that they are good, they're going to come and take them.
Oh.
Right? Yeah, but the Tobago dialect cannot be duplicated. You could say what you want. When you walk down to Scarborough Town and you hear somebody speak, even now I ask them, where in Trinidad are you from? So you're not from Trinidad, it's all right, don't worry, that's not important. The Tobago dialect is unique to the Tobagonian. No matter how you try to hide it, you can't hide it. So use all these things. Now, crime is a social construct. Crime, in 2004, we were having execution-style murders in Tobago, and I know that was not Tobagonian. I know that because it was different, and we had to put things in place to combat it. And the police, it is your strategy. You're the police. You can't be afraid to say, well, I might make a mistake. Everybody makes mistake. He who never made a mistake is he who never tried. But you can't sit and do nothing. You can't sit and do nothing, or you can't tell people, well, come in if you commit your crime. You can't do that.
How do we deal with the criminals from Trinidad? I mean, we don't want to be irresponsible, as Martin George would have suggested, by blaming the crime in Tobago on Trinidadians, because we are seeing that it's our own Tobagonians a lot of the times are participating in the crime activities on the island. But how do we deal with the criminals from Trinidad that are escaping to Tobago, seeking refuge here on the island, but bringing the criminal elements with them, as well as their gang affiliation that's now, coming into our communities? For instance, you have young boys claiming to be a part of 6 and 7 right here in Tobago.
Well, let us deal with Mr. Martin George. I don't know what information Martin has, and Martin is a very careful person. I will not challenge him on that, right? But he will know what he has, and to make him make such a statement. Male failure rate in Tobago, young male failure rate is too high. There is no single unit that can solve Tobago's problem. If you go to our schools, most of our schools are principaled by female. The male teacher ratio is too low. What is happening? It is customary that a young man will pass through secondary school, even bishops, and not even be touched by it. So it requires a holistic approach to solving Tobago's problem. They are, simply put, the male failure rate at school is too low, and what they do, they are ready to transfer those youths to some of the trade centers and say, you go and do trade so you can learn. Well, I don't think that is right. We need to look and see what is responsible for that. It's a social problem that we are having in Tobago. Now, the criminals in Trinidad. I am not quick to blame crime in Tobago on people from Trinidad. Mm-hmm. What the police need to do, it is the investigation that will teach you, well, nah, there's an affiliation here and there's an affiliation there. And this is Trinidad and Tobago. There's another aspect of Tobago that people don't really yet understand and following. There's a large percentage of Tobagonian living in Trinidad. And some of them are dead, some of them not going to come back. But the Tobagonian was always prudent. Our foreparents were prudent. So they bought the estate lands and they said they apportioned it to their children. The grandchild of the person who left for Trinidad years ago is now coming back to Tobago. Mount Grace was the home of one of a very notorious criminal. Very, very notorious. And some of those persons have come and are in the police service. They have relatives in the police service, both in Trinidad and Tobago. So what is to happen? The police administration have to begin to look and see, well, are we really doing what is right for Tobago? Are we equipping the Tobago police so that they can They can manage those affairs. I heard the Prime Minister say, and I really want to talk about that for a second. The police in Tobago must be transferred, not quoting him, must be transferred. And then he used the statement, familiarity breed contempt. Well, that is something that has been tried years ago and failed. Let me ask you this. If the commissioner announces that I want, Mr. Senior Superintendent, I want 10 persons from your division to go to Tobago, do you think that senior superintendent is going to give up his best men? Who are they sending to Tobago?
Understood.
Who are they sending to Tobago? The worst. They want to get rid of them. So Tobago will be the graveyard or the dumping ground. There's another aspect, Mr. Prime Minister. Let us seek to develop the lot of the police in Tobago in terms of training, in terms of material resources. Look at Scarborough Police Station. Look at it. Look at that building. Look at it. It's an eyesore.
Understood. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up this morning's conversation, and we thank you for bringing another perspective to the situation of crime on the island of Tobago as it escalates, and while the government tries to put policies and a crime action plan in place to deal with it. Because we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with much more conversation. See you soon.